This is Mark from Top Local. We're here with Bernie Pawlik, Pawlik Automotive in Vancouver. We're talking cars. How you doing, Bernie?
I'm doing very well, Mark.
So we're going to talk about the Toyota Camry first thing. How reliable is the Toyota Camry?
Overall, I'd say it's a pretty good car. There are a few issues through the years. The Camry's been around for a long time. Overall, I'd say it's a very good car.
So Toyota has a pretty good reputation for reliability, and I trust that Camrys are pretty much the same?
Yeah, they are. There's a few, we'll go through a few different model years. I mean, there's been a number of generations of Camry. I started trying to figure it out, and there's probably like 6 or 8 cars been around since the early 1980s, and it's changed a lot. There used to be a very narrow type of vehicle. They've gone to a wider bodied vehicle. Generally always reliable for the the era they're in. When you compare a 1980s car, you have to kind of compare it to whatever other 1980s models were around, not to modern standards. But they're really, good vehicles overall. Some interesting issues that I remember from some of the earlier Camrys was carbon buildup in the engines. And you get these cars where they wouldn't go up a hill. Like when you get to the top of the steep hill, all of a sudden the car couldn't accelerate anymore. The problem was actually really simple. It was carbon buildup on the valves of the engine. And this is kind of like a beginning of an issue that for decades now we've done fuel injection cleanings and combustion chamber services to eliminate that problem. But what would happen is that the intake valves would get covered in carbon deposits, and the fuel injectors would be injecting fuel, and would all get soaked and absorbed into the carbon. And so as the engine's going up the hill, that it wasn't getting enough fuel. So that's kind of an interesting issue. But something I remember for the older Camrys. Also, the older Camrys used to have transmission problems as well. But I mean, these are so far in the past. I can't remember the last time I saw one of those 80s generation Camrys. Camry's one of those cars where it's a good practical car, and once it's lived its lifespan, people just send them to the trash can, so to speak.
So how about the later ones? How are they?
Later ones are good. I mean, they've got progressively better. There is an issue with Camrys around the 2007 model year. A lot of excess oil consumption, a lot of complaints around that. So with Toyotas, what I found, and I've said this many times before, you really have to change your engine oil on a regular basis. Now, I'm not blaming, necessarily bad maintenance, but, because there are some, obviously, engineering defects. But really, with the Toyota, you've got to change your oil every, 5,000 to 8,000 kilometers, depending on what kind of oil you use, what kind, what's in there. But really, change it early. It's the best thing you can do for a Toyota. But definitely around the 07 model year, a lot of complaints of excessive oil consumption. So that's not a great thing. So something to look out for when you're purchasing a used Camry, from a decade ago.
So one of the things that we've mentioned a lot is timing belts, and I guess do all Camrys have timing belts, and how often do they need replacement?
So Camrys have used timing belts through the years for quite a while. They use them right into the 2000 model year on the V6 engines. Generally, the interval on them is around 160,000 kilometers, but in the earlier models, the interval was more around 96,000 kilometers or 60,000 miles. So you just need to know which year and model it is to find out when the timing belt interval is. But the 4 cylinders have not used the timing belt in a long time, and all the newer 6s are all chain driven. So you don't need to worry. But the best thing to do is just you can look up the information or call a mechanic you trust and get the information.
So in the late 2000s, Toyota had the sudden acceleration issue, non-issue, blown up kind of thing. Were Camrys one of the affected models?
They were. Camrys were one of the models. I was doing a little research before we got on on this hangout, and around the late 2000 when the recalls started coming out, the sudden acceleration issues. Camrys are definitely one of them. I think there's about 5 million vehicles affected. It was a big recall. To put things in perspective, I mean, a lot of the problem was just floor mats sticking on the accelerator pedals. I mean, that was part of the issue. And we see that in a lot of customers' cars when people come in with complaints of things. The car doesn't go fast enough. There's a floor mat stuck underneath the gas pedal, or so you really got to be careful. If you ever, watch where your floor mats are positioned on your car. It doesn't, not just Toyota, but any car. Anyway, so the recall dealt with the floor mats. Then they actually also redid the accelerator pedal, because there did turn out to be some issues with the accelerator pedal, and they did some reprogramming of the vehicle in order that, if you, it's an electronic reprogram, but if you push the brake on the vehicle, and you had your foot on the accelerator at the same time, it would actually cut the engine power, which is interesting, because I noticed that when we go out to diagnose modern vehicles, I mean, a lot of older techniques that we would use sometimes would be to put the right foot on the gas pedal to accelerate and put the brake on, and we could use this technique for certain things. And I notice a lot of newer cars, you can't do that. The moment you put the brake on, the engine won't run anymore. And it's kind of frustrating for a mechanic to do a diagnostic, when you're only limited to certain things. The computer limits you. But that's one of the safety features they put in. It's a good idea, because obviously if your car's having runaway acceleration, you want to be able to stop it.
So overall, it sounds like this is a pretty good car.
Yeah, I like Camrys. I mean, there are a few years with a few issues. I said, like the oil consumption issue, so you got to watch that. But overall, they've been throughout the years very reliable. It's kind of, to me, it's kind of like a large Corolla. Maybe not quite as reliable as a Corolla, but pretty close.
So there you go. If you're looking for service for your Toyota Camry in Vancouver, the guys to call are Pawlik Automotive. You can reach them at 604-327-7112. You must book ahead. They're busy. Or check out their website, pawlikautomotive.com. Thanks a lot, Bernie.
Thanks, Mark.